We have someone else in our own backyard, the CEO of Milwaukee-based Fiserv, Jeff Yabuki. So Jeff has been the president and CEO of Fiserv and a member of its board of directors since 2005. This year, Fiserv celebrates 30 years of leadership and innovation in financial services technology and is recognized by Fortune magazine as one of the world's most admired companies. So if you're a mobile banking user, or perhaps you've paid your bills online, which many of you had, or if you've interacted with a financial institution at all, chances are you are very familiar, and more familiar than you actually know, with Fiserv. So Fiserv is a global organization with 14,000 clients around the world and 21,000 associates worldwide. It's highly regarded for its financial services technology and services innovation, including award-winning solutions for mobile and online banking payments, risk management, data analytics, and core account processing. Jeff has played an important role in Fiserv's story of innovation. He was recognized as the Innovator of the Year in 2007 and inducted into the Innovators Hall of Fame by Bank Technology News. He's a seasoned financial services and technology executive who has held senior leadership at positions like H&R Block and at the American Express Company, and he's a proud member of the Milwaukee community, where he's a trustee of the Milwaukee Art Museum and a member of the Wisconsin School of Business Dean's Advisory Board at UW-Madison. Before he comes up to the stage, we're going to roll on a short video highlighting where financial services intersects with daily life in a real-time, right-now world. Turn your attention to the screen.
Now is in the moment. Now is spontaneous. Now is always fulfilling. Because now is always new. Now is always different. Now is always refreshing. Now is what makes what's next so exciting. Now is forever remembered. A first kiss. A first home. A first child. A first everything. Now is life in real time. And Fiserv is providing solutions to help you deliver faster, better, easier experiences so your customers can move and manage money at the speed of life. Now isn't just now. Now is wow.
Good afternoon. So I'm not certain Sujit had it right when he talked about this might be one of the better slots, because he forgot about the fact it's Friday afternoon and it's Summerfest. Sure, no one can really relate to that. So that video that you just saw, we recently did. We had a conference of about 4,000 of our clients together and really talking to them about what's going on in financial services and how innovation matters. So let me just take one quick survey. How many people use a bank? I'm just checking, right? Just want to make sure. You know, if you use banks, you might have some understanding of the kinds of things I'm going to talk about around kind of the change. Some of us might argue that financial services is on the brink of epic change. Arguably, financial services has maybe lagged some of the other industries, and there are reasons why. I mean, there are clearly reasons why, but they've lagged. And so I'm going to talk about an opportunity that I think is really great for Milwaukee and all over the world. So right now, we tend to form relationships on the basis of experiences. It's probably fair to say the sum of all the experiences that you have with a provider or a person, right, is in fact the calculus for the strength of that relationship. And today, experiences are changing rapidly. I mean, if you think about how you used to interact with a bank, like who's been in a bank branch in the last week? Really? Or are you just making that up? Why'd you go? Get some cash. Okay. So if you didn't need cash, would you have gone to the bank? It wouldn't just be the cool place that you go hang out, right? I mean, and that is part of the deal, right? Bank relationships are very transactional. And a lot of those experiences are actually being moved, right, to different ways. Like, when's the last time you went into a bank and said, tell me what my balance is? Right? You don't have to do that anymore. Like, when's the last time someone called and said, tell me what my balance is? Right? Those kinds of things aren't necessary. So there's all of these new experiences that we are going through. And in the world of financial services, which is really very much a relationship-based business, right? The importance of bringing together digital and other factors is critical for the financial services industry. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a survey that was done by Viacom in 2013. So for those, how many people in this room are a millennial? That means you're 16 to 34. Right, so if you're, a whole bunch of more people raise your hand, right? It's okay, I'm still in that category. Even for the record, I'm nowhere near it, but I'm trying to figure you people out. I've got a couple of kids who are in that category. But the importance of the millennial generation is it's by far the largest generation in American history. 84 million people are in that group, 84 million. And the importance there is, for many years, this group was kind of ignored by business because they didn't really have any purchasing power. Today, they carry 1.4 trillion of purchasing power in the United States alone. 1.4 trillion. That matters to those of us in business. The other thing that's really important about this generation is they're going to be the recipients of a $30 trillion wealth transfer. So not only are they walking around with $1 trillion in one pocket today, but pretty soon they're going to have 30 trillion more that they're going to decide where that goes. And this survey was all about how do millennials feel about certain industries. It actually looked at 15 different industries. It took 3 years. It's quite a good analysis. And it talked about banking being the industry that is most ripe for disruption. Now, disruption is a powerful word. Right? Disruption is different than interruption. Interruption is temporary. Disruption is permanent. Right? It's really important to think about it that way. So why? I'll just take another quick survey because I got to keep you guys awake since it's Friday afternoon. How many people love their banks? Okay, you just put your thumb down. Bitcoin. Okay, we'll talk about that in just a second. Do you have a bunch of those Bitcoins in your pocket? Yeah, right, on your phone, because they're not real, right? We're going to get to that in just a minute. All right, so, but how many people, I'm sorry, I was so distracted by this, right, which is what you're going to see in the survey. Not that many people love their financial institutions, right? Because we generally think about them as people who like to say what? No? Yeah, no, thank you. No, right? It's that whole no deal. Charge for everything, that kind of a gig, right? So interestingly, in this survey, it showed how this group, this 84 million people, feel about their institutions. Does it really say that 71% would rather go to the dentist and listen to what their bank is saying? I'm not big on the dentist. Right? There's never anything good that comes out of there. But what I would point you to, even more importantly to that, is 73% of the people surveyed said they would prefer to work with an innovative company. Right? Google, Amazon, PayPal, Square, Apple. You could put any number of words there. It's really, really important. The other thing that's interesting, I know there was some discussion about brands and the storytelling yesterday. Brands are really important. The 4 big banks are the least loved brands in the US by this group. Right? So the whole point here is it's all about an opportunity to innovate. Right? Flying Car is about people-powered innovation. This is about an opportunity to create new things, new experiences. And it's really because of how expectations have changed. 5 years ago, I'll even go way out on a limb, 10 years ago, right? The notion, right, that you could get on the internet and order anything you want. You could walk into Best Buy or a store of any kind, scan the QR code, find out what what the cost is, compare it to what you see there, find out that you're getting gouged at the physical point of sale, and then go home or just right there on your device order something, right? That changes how we feel about everything, right? And these changing expectations are a critical issue right now in the banking industry and really across all of the financial services space. Now, the reality is that the financial services industry is not going away. All right, we can talk about Bitcoin as much as we want, but it is not going to, in our lifetimes, and I even mean you youngsters in the crowd, in our lifetimes, Bitcoin is not going to do that. Perhaps a couple of generations, there'll be a new currency that will take over, but it's not going to happen in the near term. Therefore, you're going to see significant innovation going on, right, to meet these changing expectations. This is one of my favorite images I've done a number of presentations where I've used this image before. And I love this image because it constitutes not only how the fact that, have you ever seen a really young child, like something like this or even younger, 3, 4 years old, and if they know how to use a device, what do they do when they go up to a device? They touch it, right? They try to make it move. And when it doesn't move, they think it's broken, as opposed to it's just Microsoft. I'm totally kidding. Even Microsoft, the screen moves now, right? But my point is, there's an entire generation, right, coming up that will judge life by how their hand gestures impact financial services. And in fact, for all we know, this youngster is moving money from one account to another. They very likely are. Right? We know kids are getting smarter at an early age. Right? But you're going to see, right? You're going to see one of the things that we talk about a little bit in Fiserv is this notion of gamification. How do you make banking more like a video game? Or what was it called? You know, the whole game thing. Like this guy's playing his game right now. He just paid for it via Bitcoin. I mean, I'm just kidding, man. So that's what's going on, right? And there's lots and lots of space for innovation for people who are willing to do things differently. So a couple of banking innovations that you've probably seen. We've been behind several of these. So the image on the left, is mobile deposit. Has anyone ever used that? Right, that's a pretty cool deal, right? Take a picture of your check, don't have to go into the bank. What's the problem with that? Well, that's a good thing because we don't want paper. But it takes 3-4 days for the money to actually get into your account. Right? So it's cool, but it's slow. The second one, how many people have paid for something with their phone? Right? Just a few, because that's not yet that popular. But it's coming. Lots of discussion about mobile wallets and e-wallets. You know, personally, this is how I can tell I'm old, because I don't actually think it's that hard to take a card out of my wallet. But there's a whole bunch of people who feel differently. There's a whole bunch of people who feel differently. And the third one is an innovation that I'm pretty excited about. Most people use their mobile banking to check their balance. Right? Does anyone ever do that? Check your balance on your device, right? You know what I'm talking about. How many times a day do people check their balances? More than once? Twice? How many? How many do you do? Daily, how many times? Just once? Yeah, once? Once a week. Are there any people who check their balance multiple times in a day? Yeah, a couple people, right? Because, you know, we don't write things down anymore. There's no more check registers or anything like that. So we're gearing to see what's going on. Now, there's a little secret I'm going to tell you. Checks only clear at night or in the morning. That's it. So you don't actually have to do it multiple times a day unless you're taking money out of the ATMs and things like that. But this innovation is an innovation that allows you to get your balance without logging in. Save some steps. Because, by the way, the quality of an experience is based on clicks and steps. It's not actually based on anything else. So we developed functionality that if you've authenticated in your phone, all you have to do is what that kid before would do, swipe down and your balance pops up. Very cool, right? And it's secure because you've authenticated it. But those are some examples of innovation that we've seen so far. But innovation, still pretty basic innovation to date. There are 4 areas that are going to drive innovation in financial services. The first one is around digital innovation. And what I mean by digital innovation is how everything is presented on a device, because frankly, that's the way we live. Now, interestingly, when did this all start? Like, when did the device become so important? Well, when the iPhone came out, right? June 29th, 2007. On June 28th of 2007, we were all messing around with those stupid SmartTAC phones, right? They weren't smart. Well, we thought they were smart, but they actually were not, right? The world changed dramatically at that time. Sujit had said something that there are going to be about 8 billion people in 2020 in the world. There are 7 billion today. 7 billion today. How many applications have been downloaded? 98 billion. Billion. 98 billion apps downloaded off of Google Play and the Apple Store, which means, by my math, that's 14 applications for every man, woman, and child on the face of the earth. Probably even some dogs have downloaded some stuff. But it's really important. Before the Apple Store, you could not sell software unless you could bribe a retailer to sell it for you. Or you could, whether it's an online or a physical retailer, you had to bribe them by buying shelf space. Now, if you have a cool idea, you merely upload it into the App Store. Now, Apple signs off and takes their cut, and Google signs off and takes their cut, but that baby is out. Right? And you can distribute software. You don't need a third party, and you can start to do things like new kinds of financial services. And then there are tablets. There are hundreds of millions of tablets. There are 160 million tablets sold last year in the US. I saw something earlier this week about the demise of the PC. It's over. Right? These kinds of experiences are everything. So innovation in financial services is all happening on the device because it's easy and you are in control of your own device, and that's why it's happening there. The second area, and probably the biggest area, is around payments. So this is a kind of a cool image. How many people have been at the grocery store when someone is writing a check? Don't you just want to go rip the check out of their hand? Stop it, here's the money. I have to go. Right? I have to go because we are so damn impatient now. We're always in a rush, but it's the way it is. Let's not fight it. Let's just admit that's the way it is. Payments is a big, big space. $200 billion of revenue is created each year in the US alone by payments. That's all kinds of payments. Payments at the grocery store, payments online, payments that you send to a family member, payments that I send to my 22-year-old every other day. But he's going to pay me back, I'm sure. There is a new payments company, there's a new payment startup basically created every day. The majority of the venture capital in financial services technology is going into payments. It's that important. Anyone ever use Square? Right, Square is a cool gig. Right? Square is the convergence of digital and payments. Come together, everyone can be a merchant. Didn't used to be that way. You could only buy something if you had cash. This is a major, major area of innovation. The third area of innovation is around data. Now, everyone talks about data. You hear things like big data, small data, smart data, not so smart data. The way I think about data and the way we are thinking about it in financial services. And I'm only talking about all of these things because it's an opportunity to innovate. It's an opportunity to innovate. Data tells us all about you. It's amazing what you can learn about someone by looking at their transactions. Where do they like to go? What time do they like to go there? How much do they like to spend? What do they spend it on? What's their favorite kind of beer? What's their favorite kind of flower? What's their favorite kind of movie? Right, you bring that all together and you create algorithms. And those algorithms you run across large areas of populations, large communities of people, and you can find out what people want. Is anyone a marketer in here by chance? Any marketing people? Just raise your hand. Just humor me. It's okay. Everyone's a marketer, right? We're always selling. This guy was trying to sell me Bitcoin, right? we're always selling something. But marketers, there's this thing called direct mail. You guys don't know this because mail doesn't come anymore. Right, but mail, you send mail out, you send these direct mail pieces, and you pray someone opens them. And if you get a 1-2% response on direct mail, that's really great. So you send 1,000 pieces. If you get 10 responses, that's good. And if you sell 2 out of that 1,000, that's maybe not a bad home run. By looking at data, we can now get things down. Looking at transaction data, we can get, call it a 100-piece mailing on trying to figure out when someone's going to buy a car. Now, you think, how do you look at someone's transaction data and figure out when they're going to buy a car? We've been pretty good at that. We can actually send out 100 emails and get somewhere between 10 and 20 of those 100 to fund a loan. That's pretty good. That's what the data tells us. Data, right? Anyone get those Groupon emails? Right? Remember when they came out, we all got them every day, and then we started quickly moving them into spam? Because they're not targeted, they're dumb. Right? It's not real data. No offense to Groupon, but they're just not that smart. Right? We don't want that. We want people to know us, but we don't want people to know us too much. Right? Because that scares us. Right, so there's this interesting dance that everyone is doing right now around data. Tell me as much as you can about me, but don't scare me. I won't tell you that. So people know a lot. Right, there's no question about that. But this is a really, really important area of innovation. I forgot to mention one thing on the Bitcoin front, so I want to make sure I mention that. Everyone know what Bitcoin is? Right, lots of discussion around Bitcoin. Anyone use Facebook credits? Right, Facebook credits or Farmville or any of that. I don't actually know what that is, but I've heard of it. No, I'm actually serious. I do not know what it is, but I've heard of it. Right, that kind of thing, those are synthetic currencies. They're not real currencies. And Bitcoin has gotten lots and lots of play back to that payments area, right? $200 billion industry. You're going to hear lots more about those kinds of things. Some of them will work, some of them will not work, some of them will work in big communities, some of them will work in small communities. Some of you will be Bitcoin miners, some of you will be Bitcoin spenders, right? But that is an example of some of the other innovation that's coming out. And Bitcoin links up to data, right? It's important to know that. It's all data. It's not real, right? It's on a phone or a device. Data, I used to think data was a little bit like the old CRM systems. For those of us who are as old as dirt, in the late 90s, everyone talked about having to put in a customer relationship management system, right? We're still looking for the glory behind that, but one day that glory will be there because data is going to make sure it happens. The last area of big innovation in financial services is around speed. Remember what we were talking about earlier, how impatient and intolerant we've all gotten of delays? And then I talked a little bit about the fact that mobile capture is really a great technology, but it takes 3-4 days for that deposit to go in. Darn it. There are lots of opportunities to move things faster within the system and to have decisions made faster. Has anyone ever gotten a loan in this room? Gotten a loan ever? Mortgage? Anyone gotten a mortgage? How painful is that? Right? There is nothing more painful than a mortgage. And if you've gotten a mortgage in the last 5 years, it's like quadrupled in the level of pain intensity. Those decisions don't really take that long to make. Someone actually made the decision within about an hour at the time they got your application. But then there's all the documentation that has to go around it, and then they have to make you feel like it's worth. No, I'm kidding. But there are lots and lots of ways to make decisions faster. So when I talk about transaction speed, I'm talking about two things. I'm talking about money moving from point A to point B, no matter what point A and point B is, in the country, out of the country. In 10 years, there won't be any more restrictions about how money moves. It will move freely around the world in some common currency base. I'm not saying there'll be a single currency, but there will be easy ways to translate currencies to whatever you want. It's so painful to send money out of the country today unless you want to pay a ton of money. So that kind of transaction speed, that Square, if you've used Square, it takes 3-4 days for the merchant to get the money. Right? That'll all get sped up over the next several years. So those 4 areas are the ones that are really driving transformation. And I like this notion of at the speed of life, because we determine that every day on what's acceptable and what isn't. What was acceptable a few years ago is not. How many people in the room, this will be my last question, how many people in the room have ever used dial-up? Remember when dial-up was actually fast? Right now, it's just that noise that's annoying. Right? Imagine, have you ever watched a kid have to use dial-up? It's about as funny as anything you could ever imagine. They just have no patience, no tolerance, because for them, the speed of life is right now. Right? We live in a 24 by forever world. Right? It's all about real time right now. Right? And the financial services industry is coming fast. You're going to see lots and lots of innovation. I talk about this, not only do I love it because of what I do, but there's a major opportunity to drive innovation around the world, but especially here in Milwaukee. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great rest of the day.